And McManus, that was one of Ted's names. That ain't you. I think he was probably thinking of McCartney or something from Trainspotting. Well, what made the Miserables and Cheaters and Fist Pound good was was a lot of was the use of bar chord, minor chord, distinct thirds, tritones, um, to be able to break tempo into a new tempo at the drop of a dime, to anticipate to to compose songs and perform them and anticipate the changes live, and go into a completely different time figure or use of meter or use of beat. I mean, our songs sometimes had rumba beats, sometimes merengue, a cha cha. We even experimented with 2/4 polka time for joke, and a distinct use of measure. When you're only a three piece, you've got to pull out every stop there is to become good. But especially our chord selection and the use of chords and the many types of chord phrasings, tritone thirds, flatted thirds, um, twin guitar harmonies using major and minor formula of a major or minor scale, which gives you a distinct sound. You can do it on one guitar, but it doesn't sound the same. Definitely our use of a heavy use of um, of broken chords too. You know, a lot of minor chords and a lot of chords we used altogether. Um, when you're a three piece like that, we learned it from the Beatles. The bass will hold down the third or a root note, and it will be phrasing something a completely different riff than mine. We're not playing like two robots. He's phrasing a third over this verse. I'm holding down the first and fifth, or whatever the case may be, or a seventh. Use of chicken picking, use of double stops, even John Denver type, uh, even James Taylor type riffs. You know, if a bridge if a bridge would come up, what can we do here to make this go off? A 158 where you slide down the root and then you go to a suspended chord. Anything to create a surprise in the middle, because the bridges are the hardest thing to write. We had good bridges, they were surprising. Songs would end abruptly. Our use of dynamics wasn't that big. We were always loud, but we tried to make it as big as possible and create a sonic experience. I keep getting interrupted by the piece of shit over here, but you'd be surprised what that can do. You get your bass at the same volume and a little bit dirty as your guitar, and let him hold down the one while you phrase thirds and a fifth. It creates a stereo environment and mostly a monophonic situation. And then you have your voice come in, and it's phrasing, first, thirds, fifths, and sevenths, whatever the case is, whatever chord progression you're working with. A lot of muted Travis picking, open Travis picking. Yeah, we were very, very first top shelf musicians. I don't know about the song craftsmanship, but no, if we wrote a 3 chord turnaround, it was deliberate. So this is a 50s song. It's got this 3 chord turnaround here, and it was very deliberate. We knew what we were doing. But most of the time, that wasn't the case. We liked that dour, sad uh, kind of sound, that only thirds can give you, minor thirds can give you. Probably has a lot to do with our metal influences too. But we'd even use Slayer chords because I thought some of them were beautiful. They really were. They're beautiful riffs, and it's a beautiful fucking noise. Towards the end, we started to experiment with echo too, and beat mapping. Just ideas like Stuart Copeland would have, or just any drummer that understands repetition and beats per minute and beat mapping. We were starting to screw around with keyboard riffs. We were going to introduce a keyboard, and the keyboard would establish a beat per minute, and the drummer would play secondary to it. It was getting pretty complicated. You want each part to be as symphonic as you can make it. You know, we used a slash analog slash digital drum set. It was half trigger. It was a quarter triggers and three quarters acoustic. That made a difference. That made it very sonic as well, and extreme high volume, unorthodox volume. Most people stop at 50 or 100 watts. We would use 120. Or in a small club situation, I would use 80 watts, which is more than anyone would ever need. It's blistering. We also started with, this is what we're going to do in the future. Go back to, I was starting to split the bass player's bass with MIDI. I got him a Presonus box and ran his what that is just a note mapper. It's a simple note mapper that will map notes, and you can send it to a keyboard, and you can have like some Snoop Dogg bass in the background, and combining the signal and putting it through big bass speakers, and when the bass player would play, you would literally crap your pants. That's when it all broke up. We were getting really good at that stuff in between doing our Beatle thing, and then the more Beatles songs we learned, the better we got. It was like, at least that was my situation. It also got to one point where Ted was going to play guitar and I was going to play the bass, because we can all switch around and play. Those are the differences. I mean, we didn't make music for a mainstream market, though. We just made music for fun. Singing through a saturated tube preamp on the recordings. I always wanted to do. I got to do it once, but that was a future sound I was liking. I was liking that. Just various techniques for live and recorded synthesis to because it's just too boring otherwise. It's just too goddamn boring. And this, we get bored of the songs really quick. Double bass. I mean, we're probably the only punk band I ever heard of that used double bass. Triggered double bass at times, and it would sound like Fear Factory or something. It would sound like, at times, it would sound like Machine Gun Fire. Pony clops. We would incorporate all styles of music in our shit. But I was really, really big into Samhain, and that was my thing, was trying to turn my drummer into Steve Zing. I was like, you got to get like Zing. We ain't shit unless you can break up a meter like Zing or Ringo. You got to be Ringo. You got to be Zing. I don't want to hear any 4/4s down here. Stop doing that. We went through our phases too, where we would put O-rings on all the drums. Then we went through the ringy drum, the Metallica ringy drum thing, where the snare was like Ulrich, gong, gong, and the toms would whoo. It would just ring out, and then then we went through a Beatles phase, where we literally were out there buying little doilies and tea towels to tape onto the drums, depending on what year it was. Anything to make it fun, because it's a grind otherwise. It's just boring. I don't want to come down here and look at your fucking face sweat in this basement unless we got something really going there. And that's why me and Ted used to drink so much, because it was getting hard, and we loved the shit so much that we literally despised it. We fucking hated it after a while, and they were asking about Tim. Tim's my boy. Tim's my dog. It's just, there's not much to say about him. He's a quiet guy, and he's always been quiet. He's like my older brother, and me and Ted are kind of afraid of him always. So we tend to not talk about Tim. Even when we're alone and Tim's not there, we won't talk about him. Someone will say he doesn't want, and I go, okay. And we just, because he can tell otherwise. You're talking about four brothers in a room, and he walks in the room, he's going to know right away. He's got that brother ESP. Were you guys talking about me? No, man. No, we didn't talk about you, Tim. Does he feel like playing? And we gave Tim his freedom. After a while, he felt like he was bound for more, and he was. He had other dreams he wanted to live out. He's still doing it. I love Tim. It's just it's a different. Each brother is different. They got a different way you love them. One you can talk about, the other you don't ever talk about. Alex is in the middle. You can sort of talk about him. He's the little brother. I started out as the little brother. Now he's my little brother. And he'll always be. He'll be an old man, and that will be my little brother.